We're back on the Thicc podcast, and Week 12 of the NFL season was spectacular. Narratives forming, playoff races heating up, battles for division supremacy, all that and more. We're going to get into it, starting things off with the Chiefs-Colts game. But before we do, if you are a fan of the channel, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it around. It helps us grow greatly. And let's just get straight into it. And I was so ready, so prepared to celebrate the Chiefs' dynasty being over. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to wait another week, maybe another 2 weeks, to really properly do that, because Kansas City pulled off a miraculous come-from-behind win over the Indianapolis Colts. And the focus for a lot of people is going to be how the Colts blew this lead, and the answer is pretty simple to me. They got a little too cute. I'm by no means saying Daniel Jones is a bad quarterback, but when you have Jonathan Taylor and are up 11 points in the fourth quarter, choosing to run the ball once is a mistake. Trying to turn your running game into a short yardage passing game and just get it out when you are playing a team who runs more cover one or cover zero man and blitzes more than any other team in the league is a mistake. The Chiefs are beatable if you take shots downfield against them like the Broncos did. You can exploit this defense's shortcomings, but for whatever reason, Indianapolis decided, you know what, no, we're going to try and keep the clock moving. We're going to drop back 11 straight times, and it bit them. As for the Chiefs, their offense really efficient. In the grand scheme of things, their EPA per play is among the best in the league, but they did not deserve to win this game.
The Chiefs did not deserve to win this game?
No, they fumbled late in the fourth quarter. They didn't really move the ball much all game. They didn't deserve to win this game.
But the Colts deserved it.
Did I say the Colts deserved to win this game? No, neither of these teams deserved to win this game. This was a poorly executed game on all fronts. And you can blame Daniel Jones as much as you want, but this is a total offensive failure.
The thing that has irritated me the most about the Colts fans and commentary about the Colts, why didn't you give Jonathan Taylor the ball in the fourth quarter? Run the game away. Jonathan Taylor was not efficient in this game. He was not running the ball at a high level. In overtime, when they're trying to convert in a short yardage situation, they give him the ball. He fails because the Chiefs' run defense was showing up in a major way.
How'd they get to that short yardage? No. I got to jump in on this. How'd they get to that short yard situation? How'd it become 3rd and 1 instead of 2nd and 10?
He had one run that was a big run. I believe what was one long run. 27 yards of his 58 came on one run. He was not efficient. His yards per carry that were 3.4, 3.3, it was only that high because of the one run. If not for that, it would be hovering around 2 or lower. So he was not efficient on the ground. This was not a game where he was going to be able to run the clock out, run the game away, and slowly grind down this Chiefs defense. That was not happening. The game had to get done in the fourth quarter by Daniel Jones making a few big throws on 3rd down in order to take some clock away, and he just didn't execute in big moments. So the game is still on Daniel Jones and the passing attack because the Chiefs defense took away the run game. And what happened? Spagnuolo drew up blitzes. Daniel Jones had to get the ball out early, and in the second half, he fell completely apart. So putting this game on the coaching staff not running the ball, I think, is a lazy take.
Yeah, again, you just ignored what I said. You're talking about fanning people on Twitter. One, they got to that 3rd and short because Jonathan Taylor cranked off a 9-yard run to make it 3rd and short. He was not a complete dud in the second half and in overtime. And he's still Jonathan Taylor. You still would like to give him more than one opportunity in the fourth quarter. In fact, their most productive passing play did go to Jonathan Taylor. It's not that, they put the game in Daniel Jones' hands. They got greedy and said, we want our quarterback to pass us to a win. We're going to try and still milk the clock at the same time. If they had gotten 2-3 first downs, they would have won this game. But they focused on keeping the clock moving, keeping the ball on the ground, but they wouldn't do it by giving the ball to their most explosive, dominant player. Instead, they just threw checkdowns, out routes, and let themselves get baited into passing short against the best man team in the NFL. It's absolutely on the coaching staff. It's not because they abandoned the runs, because what they did with the passing game in its absence. I wouldn't mind if the Colts lost this game and even lost more spectacularly because they took some shots downfield to Alec Pierce, one of the best deep threats in the league, and he just got behind someone in the Chiefs secondary like he would have been able to do, but that's not what they did. They tried to run the ball without running the ball while having the best running back in the NFL, and it absolutely bit them.
I think more is on Daniel Jones and the inability for this team to push the ball through the air via him than you are giving it credit for.
They didn't give him the chance to push the ball.
Even early in the game, when the Colts jumped out to that early lead, it wasn't because Jonathan Taylor was dominant, leading them down the field. It wasn't because Daniel Jones was picking apart the defense, executing perfect play calls. They had the interception where the defensive end jumped up, tipped the ball in the air, picked it off, put them on the goal line. Then they have another big play that's a good drawn-up play by Shane Steichen. They throw it to Ashton Doolin. He gets a 48-yard pass, and then they throw it, a great throw, credit to Daniel Jones, to Ogletree in the back of the end zone. So they had their two touchdowns happened early in the game, and they weren't exactly long, methodical drives. And they didn't have that the entirety of the game. The run game wasn't there, and Daniel Jones wasn't there. So I don't think, maybe it is what you're saying, just a complete failure, but a lot more is on Daniel Jones and the passing game than, oh, they should have just relied on the run.
You, again, are just missing my point. The coaching staff tried to get greedy and have all the benefits of a running game without running the ball while ignoring the best player on their team. That's my criticism of this. Like, it's not just, oh, they relied too much on Daniel Jones. The way they relied on, most quarterbacks do not succeed in that situation. There's no two ways about it. Credit to Steichen. He called a really good second half. And once it was clear they were not going to stretch the field, Kansas City started defending everything underneath. They did not have a single safety further than 5 yards downfield most of those plays, it felt like. So they had 11 men defending the first 3 or 4 yards of the field. So credit to them. As for the Chiefs' side of things, before we just keep yelling at each other about how much Daniel Jones stinks, it's an encouraging win for Kansas City. They still have a pretty rough slate of games. They're going to get to play the Titans and the Raiders, but other than that, playoff team. Broncos, again, most notably. I'm very curious how that game goes the second time around. They are by no means out of the woods with this win. They can afford one more loss, but I think at 10-7, they don't find their way in the playoffs, particularly if they lose to the Texans and Houston has that tiebreaker on them, and they already don't have the tiebreaker on Jacksonville. So they're kind of hanging on by a thread. I guess they now have the tiebreaker over Indianapolis if the Colts just completely fall apart, but that doesn't seem that likely. They'll get to 11 wins.
And Trey Smith, high-paid guard for them, dealing with an injury, so that is something to take into consideration. Something that I think for the Colts is a little concerning and was impressive from the Chiefs' side of things was they ran the ball 30 times with Kareem Hunt and were getting 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards every single time. It was rare Kareem Hunt was getting stopped directly at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. They ran it down the Colts' throat, and time of possession-wise, 42 minutes of possession to 28 minutes, they took the game away with Kareem Hunt, something you'd expect the Colts being better able to do given what they have in their backfield. So from that standpoint, I thought it was an interesting game from the Chiefs play calling, giving the ball to Kareem Hunt that many times, the ability they had to control the game on the ground. Patrick Mahomes, it didn't feel like his best game. Tony Romo, it was Romo calling the game, right?
I don't watch those games with mute. I can't stand Chiefs commentators.
They pointed out the whole game. It felt like he was rushing some things. Certainly didn't feel like it was one of his better games, yet he still wound up with 350 passing yards. So I think
that should show you the meaningless of the looking at passing yards. As he had, 50 attempts?
46.
46, excuse me. Throwing for 350 yards is not that big a deal, as we will discuss in the Lions-Giants game. He did not play that well. Played well enough in overtime, so I guess that's all that matters.
Not his best game. They didn't put everything together from a passing perspective, and they still found a way to win. So my confidence in the Chiefs is unwavering until they are not in the playoffs or the game's over and they lose to someone in the playoffs.
I mean, the Chiefs' biggest issue did rear its head with that lot to interception, the 4 sacks on Mahomes. Their offensive tackle and offensive line play in general is pretty suspect. And when guys are not getting open instantaneously, when Kelce's just a step slower in getting to his spot, when Worthy and Rice need time to really show off their speed and get away from cornerbacks, Mahomes is going to get sacked more. I think teams Houston didn't really take him apart, or Jacksonville didn't really take him apart when they played, but the Texans' defensive line, the Broncos' defensive line, they're going to absolutely destroy this team. Even as bad as Houston is offensively, that game has the potential to go in the Texans' favor just because they sacked Patrick Mahomes 7, 8, 9 times. So the cracks in the concrete are still there.
Is Travis Kelce still the worst tight end in football?
I think so.
Even though he's second in receiving among tight ends?
Oh, he's second in receiving among tight ends. Tristan, ask me how much I care about that.
Oh, I'm
ask
literally
me how much
asking
I care
you.
about him being second in receiving yards.
I'm literally asking
Ask me
you.
how much I care about him
How
being
much you
second.
care about?
Not at all. That's the beauty of not just looking at raw stats, man. How many targets does he have?
He's not the worst tight end in football. He's actually doing pretty good this year.
He's doing pretty good this year.
Not vintage Travis Kelce, but you live on these extremes.
He is
where
the worst tight end in
it's
football.
It's not the best Chiefs team we've ever seen, where they've been to
Again,
three
no,
straight
you're
Super
not going to
Bowls.
let me justify
The dynasty's
my hate.
over.
The dynasty is over. They're not going back to the Super Bowl and they have to flip their roster. Travis Kelce
not the best Travis Kelce we've ever seen. He's the worst tight end in football.
Yeah, he's the worst tight end in
absurd.
football. Are we kidding ourselves here? I can justify the Kelce thing. One, he is a product statistically of being buddy balled Patrick Mahomes. He still has the ability to get open against zone defense better than a lot of people. Good job, Travis Kelce. Non-factor after the catch, not a good blocker anymore. Is relying on trick plays to get him open for longer stretches. And here's the real piece de resistance of the Travis Kelce experience. Highest paid tight end in football by a wide margin. So yeah, worst tight end in football. I'm fairly confident in saying that. You know what else I'm confident about?
Being the highest paid tight end has nothing
Being
to do with
a
the
massive
talent.
drain on your team's salary cap, why the roster sucks, and why Patrick Mahomes is stuck with 1 second in a pocket before he gets sacked every play is in fact why is that. Even if he's not the highest paid tight end in football, even if someone like Kittle's above him or Bowers is above him already somehow.
He's the third highest paid.
Even if that is true, he's
It is
still
true.
a massive net negative. Like compared to those other guys, those teams
gosh.
aren't having trouble fielding talent. Objectively, Travis Kelce is a net negative on the Chiefs. If you let them press a button going into the year and they had an extra $25 million and no Travis Kelce, so they can buy an offensive line, yeah, they're pressing that button 10 times out of 10. They just want to admit it because it upset Mahomes and upset the Swifties. But hey, we love our marketing.
Whatever you want to tell yourself.
Again, you got no way of arguing it, so say whatever you want.
I argue with you, I present, and then you say nothing that counters
I like
it.
raw counting stats. They're my favorite thing ever. Patrick Mahomes, awesome, but he doesn't throw for as many yards as Jameis Winston, so maybe not.
All
that
I said
good.
was you're living in the extreme of he's the worst tight end in football. That is not true.
Yeah, objectively, there is no bigger
Like he's still a
negative
top
impact.
10 tight end in football. He's not probably not a top 5 anymore, but
Generously, he is one of the 20 to maybe 15 best player tight ends in football, leaving aside the contract. So, no, worst tight end in football feels applicable. I mean, Mo Alley Cox, God love him, is a good run blocker and not a dirt cheap contract. I'd rather have Mo Alley Cox with his deal than Travis Kelce with his deal right now.
there's nothing I can't. I don't even know if I can dignify that with like. What do you want me to say to that? You just said Mo Alley Cox. Mo Alley Cox probably has less career receiving yards than Travis Kelce has this year. That's probably not true.
Yeah, objectively, that is not true. We do not forget the Austin Hooper debates. Mo Alley Cox does not make his team worse by being on the roster. In fact, he makes it better. Anyway, speaking of people who make their teams better by being on the roster, Shedeur Sanders is 1-0 as the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback. And it is okay to be wrong. It really is. Because we thought Max Crosby was going to have 10 sacks. We thought the Browns offense was going to be terrible. That just didn't happen. Shedeur got the ball on time, for the most part, recognized blitzes, played a fairly efficient game for Cleveland Browns quarterback status. The completion percentage will not jump out to you, but box score watching a Browns quarterback in general this season is an exercise in futility. We know the system's terrible. We know the skill players aren't that good. And when called upon, he made the routine plays, and he made the most explosive play of the Browns offense all season. So, very good job by Shedeur Sanders. Certainly outperformed what I thought he was going to. I'm okay being wrong about Shedeur in the grand scheme of things, but I would like to see more than one game before we start celebrating a categorical victory over the haters. He's playing San Francisco next week, and Robert Saleh, slightly different defensive mind than anyone on the Raiders staff. He does not have all-timers, unlike Pete Carroll. That's probably going to be a bigger challenge. He'll probably play a lot worse in that game. But if Cleveland does have something going forward here, that is a breath of fresh air for that franchise. I'll get into the rest of the game in a second. I'd like to touch on Myles Garrett later, but all in all, good Shedeur performance. You, as a big-time hater, have to be seething.
Hater of his fan base,
I
to be clear.
I think you hate him, too.
Circling the wagons for Shedeur Sanders after beating the Raiders is just as silly as the people who said he's the worst quarterback in the NFL after he jumps in the game last week and has that interception and plays very poorly. This is a Raiders team that is only truly rivaled by the Titans when it comes to worst team in football. I mean, we saw Geno Smith on the offensive side of the ball for the Raiders get sacked 10 times by this Browns defense. This is not a good football team. But Shedeur did play well. That rolling out, throwing the ball deep down the field to Isaiah Bond, that was a great pass. The screen pass, it's going to make his stats look a lot better when people talk about Shedeur this week, heading into next week. Point to over 200 passing yards. He had a 48-yard screen pass go to Dylan Sampson for a touchdown. That's not an exactly high-level throw from the quarterback. That is something most backup quarterbacks could do in the NFL. So I think when we see how other young quarterbacks have performed in their first debuts, it certainly was a very solid start, but it's not the most insane thing we've ever seen against a Raiders team that is a very bad football team.
I mean, no one is saying it is a Heisman-worthy, MVP Offensive Rookie of the Year worthy performance.
I think if we delve deeper into Shedeur Twitter and some of the takes we'll see this week from Shedeur stands.
Are you saying it was against all odds? Actually, I agree with that sentiment for this game. That was against all odds. He didn't go out there and stink. I was thoroughly shocked by that. I will keep an open mind with young Mr. Sanders, and I, unlike you, will rise above getting rage baited by his fans.
The one thing I will say that I was more impressed by with Shedeur wasn't the big throw on the rollout. It wasn't the screen pass touchdown. It was the fact he wasn't holding the ball onto the ball for 90 years like we've seen him do in the preseason, like we saw him do last week. So I think that if there's any big check mark, more than the touchdown pass, of course nice to see in the interception, but it means more than even the interception he threw, was that he didn't hold on to the ball forever.
The interception, the Raiders put 6 guys in the line of scrimmage and had that linebacker bail out in the coverage right where Shedeur wanted to throw. Presumably, if he gets to keep playing, he'll be better at recognizing that in the long term. I'm not going to say, oh, wow, terrible pick. That's just kind of a rookie quarterback moment. What can you do? As for the actual high-level superstar player, we're not going to touch on the Raiders. They're a terrible team, poverty franchise, and made a crippling mistake signing both Pete Carroll and Geno. Don't need to dwell on that. As for Myles Garrett, 18 sacks, 13 of which came in the past month, more than any other player in the NFL besides Brian Burns, who has as many as in the past month over the whole year. It's pretty clear he's the best defensive player in football, and I know you were too scared to stand on this take. You walked it back in the comments like, oh, I know about Aaron Donald. Is there a particularly good reason to have J.J. Watt and Aaron Donald in a different conversation than Myles Garrett? Because I don't think there is. He right now is peaking just as high as either of those guys peaked. He gets to go against some bummed offensive lines the remainder of the season. He is going to break, maybe shatter the single season sack record. What is the argument against Myles Garrett being that generational player?
He is a generational
player.
That
true inner circle pinnacle all
But I think, because when we're talking about Aaron Donald has retired. Myles Garrett, I think he could potentially eclipse those guys. But when we talk about peak, he only has one Defensive Player of the Year award.
Not his call. Again,
should win it this
not
year.
His call. I hate that argument. Like, it's such a lazy argument. Like, oh, he didn't win Defensive Player of the Year. He's on the Browns. Aaron Donald benefited from being in a winning situation constantly. J.J. Watt, much better offensive situation, much better supporting cast than Garrett. They haven't given out the Defensive Player of the Year to a losing team since 2006. So that is not a good argument. Like, him being on bad teams, being the Joe Thomas of defense doesn't really move me there. Like, he didn't win Defensive Player of the Year. Big whoop. The NFL media sucks. We say that every year. We hate the award voting for 1 or 2 awards pretty much every single season.
I can see where you're coming from, but I do think it plays a factor in this. And what Aaron Donald did as an interior pass rusher, we never really seen before. So I think just when you compare him to those guys, and if he gets those 25 sacks, or I think he's on pace for 28, then he's just going to skyrocket into, is this the greatest defensive player season? Well, it's going to be the greatest defensive player season we've ever seen if he's able to do that. And if he breaks the sack record in 16 games, it's going to mean even more. So in a silo, in just this year, I would agree with you. He's going to catapult to maybe the best most dominant player we've ever seen in a single season. But it comes to body of work, I do think there's more than just the season. And I do think awards are an element.
Let's talk about JJ's body of work then. Had 3 good seasons of playing at the highest level possible. Myles Garrett has been the best defensive player in football the past 6 seasons. He has not quite had the 20 sack seasons or whatever over and over again, but he's peaking higher right now, and he's clearly got way better longevity than Watt. And as for Aaron Donald, we've never seen him before. Yes, we have. Alan Page is 160
Also, I never
sacks.
said anything about him being this equal or worse than JJ Watt.
Yeah, I know. You came. I forgot about Aaron Donald. They're crucifying me.
I also didn't say anything in the comments. I just texted you.
You hide behind closed doors. Your fear sickens me. Myles Garrett is, unless you want to get into the Ray Lewis discussion, and that's just a completely different position, probably going to retire the best defensive player of the 21st century. And he has spent his entire career in Cleveland, Ohio. That's going to be the one tragedy of all this. He's only going to play out the next 3 years of his contract and then retire instead of going and ring chasing or going and being somewhere else and adding another 20, 30 sacks over 4 or 5 years. Because defensive ends have longevity, and Myles Garrett really does not have injury issues.
Well, they got a legend over there, so maybe he's finally got
maybe a legendary performance.
And there is an element, he's done it to himself. He could have forced a trade if he truly wanted to.
Yeah, but they gave him $40 million. Like, come on now. What are we doing here? You think Aaron Donald would have been okay staying on the Rams for a massive battle? If they gave Aaron Donald $40 million, he would have gone and played for the Michigan State Spartans for 3 years.
Big donor comes out.
Yeah, a big booster decides to use Donald's last year of eligibility. Speaking of using years of eligibility in college performances, it looked like George Pickens was playing against middle schoolers at points against the Philadelphia Eagles secondary. Really putting Cooper DeJean on him in space was something which was always going to fail. It wouldn't matter if you had both the white cornerbacks, the white defensive backs on him. Catches were going to be made, plays were going to happen, games were going to be won. The Cowboys' offense in the second half, electric, sensational. Dak Prescott doing it himself on the ground to get that last tying touchdown. Move the ball effectively all night through the air. Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, there's now conversation about which one of those two guys is better. Really, it's a suffering from a wealth of riches moment for the Cowboys here. And finally, Dallas has reached 5-5-1 again with a legitimate shot of grabbing a wildcard spot in the NFC, especially after a high-level win against the division rival, a supposed contender. So things are going great in Dallas. The focus, of course, will be on the Eagles, but offensively, they're sensational. And defensively, Quinton Williams changed it a lot. Maybe they won that Micah trade. In the totality of getting him, Clark, and a first-round pick, they're feeling pretty good about themselves. This Cowboys defense right now is better than it was last year with Micah.
The most impressive thing about the whole George Pickens trade isn't necessarily the absolute steal they got, getting him for only a third-round pick, isn't necessarily the level of production that he has had, but it's the fact he's become close to drama-less compared to what he was on the Steelers and compared to even the beginning of the season when, he was this close to grabbing the defender's ankle because he was clearly frustrated with how the game was going. So Dak Prescott, the coaching staff, Jerry Jones, the ability to harness the talent that George Pickens is, I think they deserve a lot of credit for that. And for all the crap that we give Jerry Jones for the Micah Parsons trade, he deserves a lot of credit for Pickens. And Schottenheimer has been a very good offensive head coach with what he's done with these guys. So the Cowboys, they clearly have it offensively. Will it be too little too late on the season at 5-5-1? That's yet to be seen, but beating this Eagles team, I think, was very impressive. The way they also came back in the game. It's not like they were out of it very early.
Well, let's examine the next few games here. They're playing the Chiefs next week. That one, I'll be honest, I mentioned it in the past. Their O-line's all right. They can hold up. And if you can stretch the field against Kansas City, as both CeeDee and Pickens can, good luck. McDuffie can only cover one of those guys, so I think they're going to score points on Kansas City. How many points the Chiefs score on them remains to be seen. That might be the come-down-to-earth game since Williams got acquired. After that, the Lions, they might score 50 on Detroit with how bad their defense is right now. Vikings, probably pencil that in as a win, unfortunately. Chargers the next week, no offensive line. Commanders the next week, come on now. And then Giants, the final game of the season. At that point, they may be resting starters. Like, there is not a humongous stretch of games which just looks unwinnable here. Maybe they drop 2 of these and miss the playoffs at 9-7-1, but 10-7 or 10-6-1, 11-5-1, that looks very achievable with their remaining schedule.
The Chiefs game next week is interesting, especially depending on Trey Smith's status. When you have Kenny Clark and Quinton Williams in the middle, all of a sudden you match up a lot better with the Chiefs' interior offensive line that is missing Trey Smith. Now, your secondary is going to have to go against Patrick Mahomes, which the Eagles' passing attack that has been struggling just hit you for 289 and then fell apart in the second half. And we know Patrick Mahomes can do more than Jalen Hurts can through the air. So that'll be an interesting matchup. I think the Cowboys-Chiefs will have an opportunity to be a very high-scoring affair or high-flying affair at that. But the Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark will be an interesting matchup.
It helps that they're also playing that one at Jerry World instead of going to Arrowhead Stadium. That is certainly a bigger boon to the passing attack than it could be. But we really want to talk about the Eagles. Who are we kidding here? A.J. Brown, 8 catches, 110 yards, 1 touchdown, and I benched him in fantasy. I listened to him. No, who am I kidding on? I have A.J. Brown fantasy. I didn't draft that well. It's got to be a little frustrating, though, if you are anyone in that building to have the constant media cycle, the constant swirl around a team which is 8-3, which is really beating good teams generally, which has an impressive resume. When you stop paying attention to how those 8 wins happen and how those 3 losses happen, it's probably a little bit annoying. But we watch the games. We know how it happened. We know that Kevin Patullo is incompetent at his job. We know the interior offensive line is a shell of its former self. And we know their secondary, if exposed to high-level receivers for long enough, will give up a lot of yards and a lot of points. I don't think the Eagles are repeating. It's not exactly groundbreaking news. I think we're going to get 2 new teams in the Super Bowl this year. But they have to do a little bit of cleaning house. And they need to get back to their roots and find somebody who can block on the interior of that offensive line again.
Yeah, from a macro perspective on the season, I think Kevin Patullo deserves a lot of the blame. When we had the drama early in the week, and A.J. Brown says, well, I guess Saquon's completely washed also then, or whatever he said along those lines, and people are drawing the connection between A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, and discontent there. I think more of that is discontent with the offense and the way things have been called. It has not been good. When we look at the best season of A.J. Brown's career and the best season of Jalen Hurts' career through the air, it was a couple years ago with Shane Steichen calling plays. Look what Shane Steichen is now doing with Daniel Jones and the Colts. Had a very solid year last year with Kellen Moore.
Yeah, look what he's doing on the Saints.
And now they have Kevin Patullo. So when they've transitioned offensive coordinators within the building and Sirianni's the one making the hire, it has not gone well. But like you made the video about, in this one specifically, it wasn't necessarily the passing attack. It was the fact their interior offensive line was very bad. They're not able to run the ball. They're not able to generate a push, open up the rushing lanes, and that's why they were not able to control the game late, and the Cowboys were able to crawl back into it.
Yeah, and that's going to be a persistent issue. If you're going to play the Seahawks in the playoffs, maybe you're counting on Sam Darnold melting it down against a good interior pass rush. If you're going to play the Rams, I know you beat them already, but this is a very different Eagles offense, and they're dealing with a Lane Johnson injury. You cannot feel overly confident as a Philadelphia fan going into those impending playoff matches. I mean, maybe you thread the needle, you get Detroit here, you get Dallas here again, you get teams you can beat and don't have to play anyone until the Super Bowl, but still. It's a rough go of things in Philadelphia, and I have a really hard time imagining them even making the conference championship.
Their defense is good enough to get the job done still. Like, this is the game we talked about where...
Gave up 24 straight, so...
Yeah, but even 24 in a full game is not bad. If your offense gets one more scoring drive, you win the game. Giving up 24 is not a horrific game. And a lot of it happened late because your offense wasn't controlling the game. It wasn't getting you off the field. It was keeping you on the field, sorry.
I mean, does Dak Prescott suck or does the Eagles defense suck? And will we just alternate our takes on that going back and forth depending on who we're trying to upset week to week?
It could just both be good.
Come on now. Let's get serious. Both be good. Speaking of good, Cam Ward against a really good Seahawks defense. Pretty effective game.
We're talking about Cam Ward?
For the first time, yes. I mean, of course, Seattle still won, but give the rookie a shout. Since we talked about Shedeur already, and we're not going to be able to talk about your buddy since he's still concussed.
A good game given the circumstances. Doesn't have receiving weapons. Tony Pollard is the running back. The offensive line is what it is.
Do not group Tony Pollard in with the rest of those bums in the Titans offense, man.
He hasn't been
Tony
great
Pollard
this year.
Has multiple 1,000-yard season. Of course, he hasn't been good. No one's blocking for him.
He's not in
Ashton
a good
Jeanty
situation.
hasn't been good this year.
He's not in a good situation to succeed. So the fact he was able to do something against the Seahawks, although, it wasn't exactly a game where they were in it the whole time, and a lot of the scoring came later in the game when they were out of it already. Good for Cam Ward. The biggest storyline for this game is JSN is the best wide receiver, or right there with the best wide receiver in football, with Puka Nacua, with Jamar Chase. He has just been spectacular.
Justin Jefferson not going to shout in that anymore?
No, he's out of it.
It's such a bad campaign.
He's sitting in the back of the bus with 9.
You know, man, I think you shouldn't talk about black people being relegated at the back of the bus. That's just my opinion.
Okay. But JSN, he is awesome. The connection he has with Sam Darnold, his ability to win down the field, his ability to win on short routes, his hands, his ability to put up his hands late. He's the most fun receiver to watch in the NFL. There's nothing he does poorly. He was called a slot receiver when he was entering the league. He's the furthest thing from that, and the fact that he can play a slot, but he can also play on the outside, and he can win anywhere you put him. Put him in a tight end, and I bet you he'd win.
Well, you put him against Michigan, he's not going to win that game, but leaving aside that fact, yeah, JSN's pretty good. There's not too much analysis needs to be done. If it were a slightly weaker MVP race, and I don't think it's going to be, and I think Sam Darnold's going to cannibalize his votes, I think a 2,100-yard wide receivers nearing the league lead in touchdowns might have a shot at. Probably going to win Offensive Player of the Year. If Jonathan Taylor hadn't fallen off, it'd be a very competitive race between those two, but he's got that one in the bag.
What if we get a running back MVP and wide receiver Offensive Player of the Year?
You're more likely in the modern NFL to get your first wide receiver MVP than you are to get your first running back MVP. It's just not going to happen. If Saquon didn't get it last year, if Derrick Henry didn't get it the year he hard carried the Titans offense to 9 or 8 wins, it's just not going to happen again. Something needs to shift. We need to change the criteria of that award, like they have done to the Comeback Player of the Year award, which Joe Burrow is probably going to win his third of next year.
They would really need an MVP but then the best player in the NFL. That would also probably wind up still getting a quarterback because of how people view quarterback.
Yeah, man, the folks who have votes should not have votes in the media. Speaking of having votes, if you polled the entire city of New York, how many of them do you think will have expected an absolute gunfight?
Oh, we're going to the Giants before the Vikings?
I mean, close with the most interesting topic. Between the Lions and the Giants. How many people have expected that from J-Mo's first game? How many people have expected an offensive masterclass for the first time all year?
It was the full Jameis Winston experience in this one. You had the interception that he threw. You have a trick play flea flicker touchdown. You have a trick play pass from Gunnar Olszewski, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, from him down the field to Jameis. He stiff-armed somebody, celebrating in the end zone. He has the Giants winning. He's throwing the ball deep down the field to Wan'Dale Robinson, making Wan'Dale look like a top 10 receiver in the NFL. Everything you want or could want from a Jameis Winston-led offense was there. It was an exciting show to watch.
I mean, I won 3 pick sixes with my Jameis Winston performances, but hey, I guess we've got to be greedy if we're rooting for the team he's on.
So from that standpoint, it was fun to watch. As a Giants fan at this point, you're not really expecting wins to happen. They're just not going to. With all the injuries they have, it was at least a fun one to watch. And I think on the season, when it comes to how it has gone, if you just think, if Brian Daboll hires your defensive coordinator, doesn't have Russell Wilson be the day one guy, and it is Jameis Winston day one, he probably still has his job right
Brian
now.
Daboll also doesn't call really ineffective, dangerous game plans for his young quarterback, doesn't lose the locker room, isn't yelling at NFL medical staff like a psychopath. He might still have his job. It's crazy how things could change if things which don't happen did. Come on now, man. He was destined to fail. I know he's going to go be successful somewhere as an OC. Maybe he's the Bills coach next year.
When you look at the Giants season, two of their biggest flaws have been their defensive coordinator. I mean, it is 5 games this year. They have lost fourth quarter leads. That has been with Kafka as a head coach and with Daboll as a head coach. It has happened multiple times with 2 different head coaches. And at that point, maybe from a macro level, it is on the head coach, but it falls on the defensive coordinator who has been calling the defense the whole time. The offense for the Giants this year, unlike previous seasons, hasn't been the biggest issue, whether it's Jackson Dart or Jameis Winston at quarterback. So the fact that, well, maybe with Russell Wilson at quarterback it was an issue, but the fact
40 points against the Cowboys.
It's the Cowboys secondary pre-Quinnen Williams, pre-Kenny Clark, without Siobhan Rebel there.
It was not pre-Kenny Clark. I think Kenny Clark was, in fact, on the team then.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, I didn't realize Quinnen Williams played safety. But you truly are existing in a state of contradiction as a Giants fan. Because on one end, the defensive coordinator sucks. He blows all these leads. The defense is not as good as they should be. But on the other end, you want Joe Shane fired, despite him assembling this superstar defensive line and these phenomenal linebackers. It's weird, man. I don't get you. I don't think you get you.
Do we need to get into
Joe Shane?
No, do not do that. I'm not going to get into a Joe Shane and why he sucks conversation. I'm not going to fall for that trap over there. that you have laid.
There's a good chance he gets to be the Giants GM next year. You know that. He gets to pick another coach.
Because he goes on family vacations with Tim McDonald, John Mayer's nephews, we know he's not going to get fired. The nepotism in that building is sickening.
You know,
I don't even remember what I was saying.
The only way he gets fired is if he was on that island. Check the
Is he on the list?
Check the flyer. We know Woody Johnson was on the island. Maybe he's going to go be the Jets general manager. Speaking of people who are on that island.
JJ McCarthy. Now, before you even get a chance to...
we are not going to open with you accusing JJ McCarthy of being on Epstein's island. No, we're not going to do that. That is a bad open. JJ has many faults. Age-wise, I don't think it's even a possibility. He may have been 5. Maybe he was on the island in a different capacity.
Where were his parents?
Probably California, where he grew up. You have to hope.
But
anyway.
I know you're a big fan of EPA. I've learned that about you this season.
Yeah, EPA and EPA per play are two very different things. And EPA per dropback's just subjective.
But being the second worst quarterback of the last 25 years, only behind Jamarcus Russell in EPA per dropback, you told me this national championship winning quarterback was going to be the answer for the Vikings. Every other quarterback, every young quarterback that you don't like, you drill into. So what do you think about JJ?
I mean, is that supposed to be the cold open? Do I have to argue with Twitter stats now? Or are you going to next?
Oh, now it's Twitter stats.
Posting the thumbnails. Like you said, I've
been throwing EPA at me all season.
No, you saw that from a tweet and are now throwing it at me. I at least acknowledged that I saw this stat floating around on Twitter. You just strip, I've come to this rare conclusion. I did some dirty work. You scrolled on X for 7 minutes. You know what you're implying.
Just answer the question over there.
I'm trying to answer the question.
Engage with the content and don't make these
I'm
ancillary
engaging
arguments.
with a flawed foundation, and with engagement in that, the whole argument falls apart.
There is no flawed foundation. I'm posing a question.
Okay, Elon, I'm glad you're comfortable with that statement.
A factual statistic.
You can fact check that tweet, or did you just run with it?
I fact checked it.
You fact checked it? What website did you use?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. You don't even know any of the advanced analytics sites. See, I don't like you, man. You just either look at box scores or you see just one advanced analytic and use that. You have no idea how to read a rich tapestry of stats.
Oh, and you do.
I have a much better idea than you. I don't just quote tweets.
You're the one who told me JJ was going to lead the Vikings to the promised land.
He is going to lead them to the promised land. The promised land may be the first overall pick, but thankfully he's played himself out of that. The 2 wins are one more than the Titans will have. So bare minimum, JJ is assured they will not get the first overall pick. And yeah, it was a rough show of things. About as rough as you can expect. For the first half or so, things were going all right for Minnesota. Had 2 long drives, one which resulted in a field goal, one which got down deep into the Packers' red zone. Then Kevin O'Connell decided to go T.J. Hawkinson quarterback sneak on 3rd down. Then Jordan Mason handoff up the middle on 3rd down. A 3 and out, and then another field goal. So things were not going terrible in the first half. In fact, JJ hit a few decent throws along the sideline and did get him into field goal range late in the game. So I will give credit where credit is due there. The second half, once it became pretty clear Minnesota was going to have to score points through the air, respond quickly offensively after the Vikings punt returner, Myles Murphy, whatever the hell his name is, fumbled a ball and gave the Packers a free touchdown to start the second half after the defense got a stop. Then things became a problem. He's not seeing the field quickly enough. He's being asked to do things he physically cannot do. And when Micah Parsons gets to him in 2.5 seconds, there is going to be very little hope of having a successful passing game. It was probably less than 2.5 seconds. Parsons really teed off on Christian Darrisaw today. That was the most concerning part of all this to me. The abandonment of the run game, the decision to be cute instead of opting for points, and JJ not being where you'd like him to be has pretty much doomed the Vikings season. Again, it's a rich tapestry of why everything sucks. JJ is not playing well, make no mistake, but the EPA per dropback thing to suggest he is worse than guys like Zach Wilson, that feels like more of a what's going on.
He has been worse than Zach Wilson.
He has not been worse than Zach Wilson.
He objectively has
not been.
Yes,
that feels like more of a statement. Why? Because his EPA per dropback's worse.
You want to take a look at his completion percentage and his touchdown
12 for 19,
ratio?
man. It's going up. Also, the first interception was probably a fumble. Like, the first interception was Myles Garrett absolutely crushing his throwing arm. So
Myles Garrett doesn't play for
Not
the
Myles
Packers.
Garrett, Micah Parsons. I'm getting my generational edge rushers mixed up. Micah crushing his throwing arm and probably should have been scored as a fumble. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because at the end of the day, it was a turnover. The second one was horrible. The first one, I mean, what are you going to do? JJ needs to play better. The Packers did not play an overly inspiring game, but absolutely stomped on the Vikings defensively. What can you do going forward? You don't roll with a brand new quarterback in 2026. There's no quarterback in this draft good enough to replace JJ, and I doubt there's a quarterback. Well, good enough to justify using a first-round pick to abandon your top 10 pick 1 year, not even one full season into his career as a starter.
They don't have a top 10 pick yet. That's how many bad teams there are in the NFL right now. But there might be a good enough quarterback in the second or even third round with how JJ McCarthy
there's a good enough quarterback in the fifth round to replace your guy in New York, but we don't need to get into that.
I'm not going to engage with the rage bait from that side of the room. JJ McCarthy flat out has been very bad. He has been worse than Zach Wilson. He has been one of the worst quarterbacks to start games in the NFL in recent memory. He has been that bad. Now, I do think there is still an element there. I will agree with you in certain respects, and I've said this in previous episodes. There is an element of a degree of overreaction when it comes, we need to get this guy out of town. He's the worst thing we've ever seen because of how good they were last year, because they won 14 games with Sam Darnold, because how talented we know this team to be. I think there's frustration within the locker room. We were just there. We were on the precipice of being great. We got kicked out by the Rams in the playoffs. Now, we're ready to win now. Why are we trying to drag this young guy along who came off a knee injury last year and can't even complete a 10-yard dig route or complete a ball down the field? And I think there's frustration within the locker room. I think some of it is a little unfair to JJ because he is coming off of that injury and he's only that was a 6 start, right?
Yes.
6 starts into his career. So I do agree with you on that respect, but what it has been very bad. So I think both sides of the argument are true.
Yeah, the beauty of both sides of the argument is it's just two groups of people who are out of touch with reality. There are people who are going to pretend JJ is not playing horrible, like, oh, it's the system. Those people have probably gone silent after this past week, and people who want him out down immediately. What's going to happen, unless the next, 6 games are apocalyptic, they're going to roll in with the plan that JJ is going to be the starting quarterback week 1 of next year, and maybe they go out and get a Mac Jones, who's a third-round pick on the quarterback, get somebody on the roster to ensure, like, okay, if it doesn't work out again through the first month, we are not just going to punt on this great roster. On this good roster. I'm not even going to say great. The O-line was really bad this week.
If I had to guess, they'll probably bring in someone like Mac Jones, say it's going to be a battle in training camp, and then if the veteran wins out, then you have to be a lot more concerned for JJ's career longevity. And if he doesn't win out, they'll probably have like a 5-week leash, I'd imagine.
One can only hope. At the end of the day, though, it's just football. There are better things in life than worrying about the fates of your various teams.
There's nothing better in life. Grinding out TikToks, talking about your favorite teams and their failures on the Thicc Manning podcast. Doesn't get better than this. I mean, look around us. That has been our Week 12 reactions. Are the Colts a bunch of frauds? Is Shedeur Sanders a bona fide franchise quarterback? Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.